Well, good evening and welcome. I'm thankful again that you would tune in, and we're going to welcome our Zion Global family, our Zion Global village. For those of you who are tuning in, we're going to have an interesting conversation. My brother here is Rodell McCullough, and I'm thankful that you could come out and be with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
We got some people that are tuned in from all over, from Zion, from all over the country, that'll be listening in on what we're sharing tonight. We're going to touch on some areas in the area of finance a little bit, but really in the areas that you are focused on in your job, you know, and I want you to share just briefly, if you don't mind, kind of what you do as you touch community and you touch people's lives before we even dive deeper. So
Okay.
This is Rodell.
All right. Well, thank you. A little bit about myself. In my work life, my title is Chief Corporate Responsibility Officer. Every time that I explain that to somebody, they ask me, what is that? So that is our community development strategy and execution, and I can talk a little bit more about that. It is also supplier diversity, diversity, equity, inclusion, our ESG, which is environmental social governance reporting strategy. And then I'm also the secretary I work for First Financial Bank. I'm the secretary for their foundation as well. So I got enough to keep me busy.
Yeah. So, you know, we've been kind of trying to touch base with individuals that are in our congregation that could really just pour out wisdom, pour out information to those who are tuning in. Because as Pastor has gone into this series on planning, you know, there's a lot of folks who just don't have information, you know, and you say our people perish for lack of knowledge, you know, and so I know one of your avenues is communicating knowledge, whether it's your team or whomever that shares knowledge with the community and those who bank at First Financial, right?
Yeah, that's primarily through our community development strategy that I talked about. It's focused on providing access, lending, investments in inclusion, volunteerism, and education in the communities that we do business in. And to go deeper into that, I mean, it's about product development, it's about financial education, it's about support for organizations that are providing supportive services to what we call low to moderate income individuals. That can be in terms of their specific income, which is usually 80% of area median income or less. But it's also census tracts. The government divides up America within what they call zip codes. Those zip codes are part of census tracts. They look at the income makeup of that census tract, and if the majority of it is that 80% or less of the area median income, then they call that a LMI census tract. But then on the fair banking side, they also look at it from a majority minority census tract because they want to make sure that you're providing access to banking services for everybody. So not just because you have money and not just because you're a certain color or whatever. So they want to make sure that you're providing, you know, services to everyone. And people say, why is that? It's something that happened in 1977, which is the Community Reinvestment Act. And the Community Reinvestment Act was to combat what they call redlining, where banks or other financial institutions drew a red line around the community because of the characteristics of that community and said, we're not going to do business there. And they expanded it in 1995 and said, all right, we want to focus on the community. So what supportive services, not just make sure that you're doing lending and providing access to credit within all of your areas that you do business in, but that you're actually supporting the community in a big way. So that you're providing you know, philanthropy, that you are providing services, that you're supporting folks that need the assistance in your community to do better. And you know, from the bank that I work for, it's just the right thing to do. What you're doing is by helping those that need the help the most, you're creating a pathway to financial performance for these individuals, which thereby makes them good clients, right? So you support them where they are today, try to build them up, And then now you have that loyalty of that client over the course of their financial history.
When you think about that picture, you know, LMI means a lot in your industry, right? You can go anywhere and say LMI and people know pretty much what you're talking about.
Exactly.
If they're in banking,
Right.
And you've been in banking how long?
I've been in financial services for 32 years. In banking itself, so I took a little step away from banking for about 15 years. So about 17 years of that have been in banking.
Okay. So again, I'm thinking about this LMI, and you know, a lot of our churches, I think, have quite a few folks who fall in the area of LMI, right? So you said that's low to moderate income.
Right. So the government looks at folks in terms of 4 areas. You're either low income, which you're 50% of area median income or less. So you can. What's low income in our community may not be low income somewhere else, and vice versa. There's moderate income, so that's the 80% down to the 50%. And then when you talk about above that, you're talking about middle income and upper income. Yeah.
So if you were looking at people, and you know, we know that you have this census. What is the check? Where's the checks and balances to ensure, you know, First Financial, you know, you're doing what you need to do, and anyone else, right? Is there a system, or, you know, is there anyone out there or organization, or is it internal?
So it's all of that.
Okay.
So you have, so there's, I mentioned the Community Reinvestment Act. We get examined on every 3 years and determine how well we're doing in serving our communities. So we have Federal Reserve, there's the Office of the Controller of Currency, they call them the OCC, and then everybody knows the FDIC. Those are the folks that insure the banks, right? Depending on the size of the bank and where you're actually chartered determines what regulator reviews your performance. But that regulator, regardless of who it is, comes in every 3 years and looks at your performance. They look at your public records. So we have to publish something called a public file. So if you want to know how well your financial institution is doing, you can actually walk into any branch and ask them for their public file. And they're required by law to give you a copy of it. Now, some people go extra and they will charge you for a printed copy of it. We don't. We actually give it to you free of charge because we're proud about our record.
Amen.
And actually, I'm just going to pat myself on the back a little bit. I actually, under my leadership, we got the first outstanding rating that the bank has ever had.
Is that right?
And I think I told you last night, our bank is 156 years old.
Ever.
But that is, you know, because we have the right things in place, that we have the right disciplines in place, and we actually work with our regulators to say, what are you looking for? Tell us exactly so we can make sure that we're not just going on our own opinion about what we should be doing. We make sure we get their input. So, you know, we, you know, look even beyond. Again, it's in the DNA. I've been fortunate. I've worked for a number of leaders in my life, and I've been fortunate to say that at least 100. I'd say 90 to 95%. I don't want to say, you know, everything, but they've been Christian. I've been able to sit in rooms with them and for an hour talk a little bit of business, but it all goes back to the Bible, you know, trying to do the right thing. And so not everybody has that. And I think that's how I ended up where I am today. So, you know, I'm an operations leader by training, you know, but it all came back to this community development thing, and it allows me now to use the bank's resources to build up the communities that we do business in.
That's a good kind of segue too. I was going to ask you, you know, how did it impact you being in this business? You know, from a kingdom perspective, just thinking about not church, you know, but beyond all that, you know, how have you been impacted or affected by, you know, being in this business, you know, and what you do, you know, for a living?
Well, it touches your heart, right? First of all, I feel blessed that I have access to millions of dollars to be able to support organizations that are providing pathways to success for individuals, right? So whatever that may be. It could be, we talk about financial education, but sometimes it's just giving them those supportive services, whether it's food, clothing, or whatever it may be, to position folks for success. We work with organizations that are providing job training, that are providing free haircuts, that are providing clothing, providing food to get people back into a good situation so that they are employable. So to be able to impact people that way, it touches me emotionally. I didn't know that it was going to do that. By my training, I'm actually, black belt certified as well. Everything is about process. When I was asked to move into this role, and I didn't mention this earlier, but if you have a bad CRA exam by your regulator, they don't allow you to grow. So when my CEO and our chief operator officer came to me and asked me to move into community development, they asked me to move in to put in process.
Okay.
Right? But it's gone beyond just process. It's about, trying to do what you can and use the bank's resources to support people. And by doing that, I know that I'm doing good in my community, and I feel like I'm doing what I'm called to do.
That's awesome.
Pastor talks to my wife Tracy. My wife Tracy is a school teacher. She feels she's finally doing. She's an engineer, a person who has gone through so much school you wouldn't believe, and has everything but the PhD certification as an engineer. But she's a 6th grade math teacher,
right.
And she feels that's what her calling is. So for us both to be in that situation, to feel doing what we feel our calling is a blessing.
Yeah. See, the ministry goes so far beyond, the walls of the church, and that's a part of this whole piece. Because as pastors going through the series on plan, the P is purpose, right? So a part of what you're doing, you feel that it's been purpose driven for you to be in this arena that you're in today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That is wonderful.
And to be able to help people improve their situation. So, if anything this pandemic has taught us is you need to have a rainy day saving. If you're not saving in any kind of way, you need to be saving. And, people say, but I don't have any money to save. If you save $1 every time you get paid, you're saving something. I put 3 kids through college saving $50 to $100 every paycheck. And so I'm fortunate to sit here today. I say I have 3 daughters, all 3 of them are college graduates, and that was just because I had the discipline to save. Put it in an account that you don't have a debit card to, that it's going to take you some work to get it out, and then you'll be more likely to leave that money there. Those are the type of things we tell people. You get a banking account, take care of that banking account, because if you don't take care of that banking account, it's going to eventually affect your credit. It's going to affect your ability. There's a system called check systems. So when you are bad at one bank, every bank knows you're bad, and they're not going to be likely to want to do business with you. So protect that relationship, protect your credit, because we all want to be employable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you have a bad credit rating, that's going to limit where you can actually work. People don't want you working around money when you can't handle your own. So, when we teach financial education, those are the basics, right?
Yeah.
We want to teach people the basics to either help them start out on the right foot, if they're in that low to moderate income area, or maybe they got there through bad habits or lack of training. Well, we want to give them that information they need to get them back on track. And part of my function at work is establishing products to give them access to be able to do that. And so we have things that rebuild credit. We have things that give you an account but position it in a manner so that you can't overdraw it and get all those fees and everything and get into that bad cycle, not going to that payday lender,
right.
Those type of things.
Right.
That's all of when I say community development is about, it is focused on preventing people on getting there. And Pastor's been talking about plan. It's just about having it doesn't take you to sit down and have a degree to put this plan together. It's just doing the basics. You can save over time. the goal would be, start small, get to that point, and eventually get to that point where you can have a financial planner and all that other stuff to do some more sophisticated things, but start somewhere. And if it's $1, if it's $5, $10, do something and put that money away so that you have that rainy day savings. I see, through the work that we do, we work with a lot of food pantries. We work with a lot of people that provide services to the homeless. And folks in need increased through the pandemic. And a lot of that is because they had no savings. They didn't have the smallest of plan in place to be able to.
No plan.
Yeah, exactly. No plan at all to address this pandemic. There's always unforeseen circumstances that happen.
Right.
And you need to be able to be prepared for those unforeseen circumstances. There's not going to be everything that is going to be evident to you. And so, you got to save for those things that are not.
Yeah. I think about how we help, how we help people in the church. And sometimes I know we probably should get a slap on the hand for, doing benevolence the old school way. I know there is a new school way. We just need to understand the best way to do that, because giving someone something at a time when they need it seems like the right thing to do, right? And but the training and the education piece, we may have failed in some of those areas. So it's important that we take the time to educate and build up. But it takes time, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like training them how to fish instead of giving them a fish.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Give them the tools to be able to do it on their own, and prevent them from getting back in that situation where they need a handout.
Right. Now you deal with businesses as well, right? So we talked a little bit about individuals. So it's folks who are banking with First Financial that may fall in those categories where they can get the education. Is that where they actually ask for it, or you just kind of offer it and they sign up for it?
Well, we try to partner, so we're a small bank, right? We got 2,000 employees that do everything for the bank. We have 12 what we call financial wellness advisors. So there's limitations on what we can do, but we can try to give back and get people to volunteer with organizations. Our goal is to find those organizations that are doing things right in our communities, and then support them to do the work that they do. So we do a lot, and people have probably heard of Mortar. Mortar does things on a national basis, but they're based here in Cincinnati, and they help to incubate businesses. What I mean is they help to be able to, folks that with all these great ideas, they give them the tools to have that birthed into a business. There's the Greater Cincinnati Microenterprise Initiative. We work with them. They're actually located in the Cincinnati Community Action Agency offices here, and they do the same thing. And so what we try to do is give them resources so they can have a broader impact. And one of the ways, so we, financial support, obviously, those type of things. We do technical assistance. We try to get our people to go out and volunteer, whether it be for committees, whether it be for board positions, to take that knowledge that they know, to train that organization to be more effective. We do things like what we call microloan programs, where we give the ability for a business to refer loans back to us, and we loosen the credit standards for those referrals back to us to help those businesses. Some of them are startups, but some of them are actually existing businesses that need that additional capital for whatever, whether it be short-term or long-term. But then also we do some business education. You can go out on our website and sign up for a class, and we do things virtually as well.
When you think about a business that is gonna, muster up their courage to come in and sit down and talk with you, is there something that you would say, hey, these are some things that I would share with our folks, and just in general, what you need to be prepared, how you come in, how prepared are you, and what are those things? What are some of those things?
Well, some people want to run a business, and they think the business is separate from their personal situation. Well, as a small business owner, how a bank is going to determine if they're going to give you money is off your personal credit. So, so when I talked about protecting your credit, do the right things, you're doing that for yourself individually. But if you have this great idea, you want to birth a business, you're going to need to be able to have your personal credit be in the right place before they ever give you any business credit. And then have a business plan. Nobody wants to say, I have an idea, give me money for an idea. Well, a bank's not going to give you money for an idea. They're going to say, you have an idea, so what's your plan to make that idea profitable?
A plan?
A plan. You have to have a business plan. And those are two main things I can think of is, one, protect your credit. Do what you can to get as much training around running a business as you possibly can, but then you got to have a plan in place. You got to have a business plan, something that says, banks always say cash flow.
Right.
They want to see how you're going to turn that idea into something that people are willing to pay you, and how much volume do you think you're going to have, and how much money is that volume going to generate for you. That determines your cash flow. If you don't have cash flow, you don't have any credit from a bank standpoint, because that's where you start. You start with your small business, looking at your personal credit, getting access to credit that way, and then growing your business credit is your ability to be able to cash flow your business. And then that's what they're looking at after that point.
So your cash flow, as it builds up, you can come back to the bank.
Exactly.
And say, okay, now look.
Yeah.
Not just personal anymore. Let's look at the business.
Yeah. So I talked about the microloan program. The way that we work it is, we work these organizations. A lot of them are called SBDC, Small Business Development Corporations. We provide them money to support provide their services to these organizations. We also give them an opportunity to make a referral for a microloan. We allow them to coach them, and we actually can step in and help coach the business owner as well. Our whole goal is the microloan is usually 48 months, 4 years. We want them to be successful with that. The reward for doing that is now we'll automatically approve you for a line of credit. Regardless of whether your business is cash flowing or not, we automatically, because you made the payments you said you were going to make, because you did your responsibility, we will give them a line of credit. That line of credit starts off at $10,000. You make your payments. You revolve that money, meaning that you continue to pay it off, use it, pay it off, use it. That can grow up to $50,000. And then you do well. You're a good steward of that. Then you know what? We want to talk to you about an SBA, a Small Business Administration loan. Okay. Which is government backed.
Okay.
And then you know what? We're going to work with you on some government programs. Believe it or not, the state of Ohio will actually secure your loan for you if you have proven that you have, one, gotten the training, that you have a business plan in place, and that you are a good steward of the money that you have. The Ohio State government will actually deposit money in the bank in what they call a loan loss reserve position, which will serve as collateral to help secure your loan for you. So all you got to do is what you're supposed to do, and there are so many resources out there to be able to help you grow your business.
Now that's probably a great place for education.
Yeah.
Just because, it's like, what do you know? If you're starting a business and you're just getting into it and you don't really know what the bank can do, and things like that, it's just where do you go find that kind of information that you can walk in and say, well, you know what? I know that this can go in this direction if I do these things, right? Because that's listed here, I just can check the box, right? I'm just thinking like that. Before you got into this whole financial business services, what kind of got you to go that direction? Were you studying that? Were you majoring in that?
No. No. I guess things happen for a reason. When I graduated from the University of Cincinnati, it was in 1990, December of 1990 is when I graduated. At that time, it was considered to be a dry market, which means that there wasn't a whole lot of jobs out there. People were taking whatever jobs they can get. I was fortunate. So we talk about having a plan. Let's keep coming back to plan. I actually was I was part of the co-op program.
Okay.
And I knew that by being part of the co-op program, that was going to give me experience. and that experience was going to allow me to be more marketable. I didn't come out of college with the highest GPA. You know, I enjoyed my college time. Let's put it that way.
I can relate.
But because I had that experience and just working with organizations, I had multiple opportunities. Those multiple opportunities just happened to be with banks. So people remember Bank One. I had an opportunity with Bank One Dayton, Bank One Columbus, and then I had an opportunity with Star Bank in Cincinnati, and I took the one with Star Bank, which is now U.S. Bank. And you know, went in, worked hard, got recognition for the things that I was able to achieve, and got rewarded for that, and got some promotional opportunities, got a chance to work with businesses outside. And you know, I gave a tour one day to some folks at Fidelity Investments, and I got a call and they said, "Hey, how would you like to come work for Fidelity Investments?" And I'm like, "Hey, yeah, pay me some more money, I'm out of here." And I went there, and then that is where I really had the run of the Christian-based leaders in my life that really impacted me, helped train me, helped pour into me, and allow me to be a better manager and do things that I wanted to do professionally. And I'd spent 10 years in what they called Fidelity-wide processing, doing stock certificate processing. Believe it or not, back in the day, they used to have mutual fund certificates, did that. Did remittance processing, basically bill processing, payment processing, mail processing, image processing. They kept throwing more and more on my plate the more successful I was. And then one day I gave a tour to one of the business units that I supported on the processing.
Tour.
It's another tour.
You did a tour for Fidelity.
And then the leader who was on that tour said, "That guy's gonna work for me someday." 2 weeks later, a VP that worked for him called me and said, "You know, how would you like to be a vice president in our group?" I'm like, "I don't know anything about what you do." They said, "Well, we'll train you." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's do it." And I went and did that for 5 years and got a chance to travel the world doing that. And then I told you, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, I have 3 daughters. And I started missing out on the things that they were doing. They were involved in extracurricular activities. And I made it up in my mind that I was going to leave. And that next trip I made, I was on that trip, I got a phone call from a headhunter. And that headhunter said, "Hey, we want to talk to you about a job." I'm like, well, you know, they maybe caught me at that right time I was willing to listen. And I listened, and I listened, and I listened, and you know, 11 years later, I'm working for First Financial Bank. So, you know, I guess that's, you know, a testament about, you know, being in the right place at the right time. Being, you know, when you're given an opportunity, making the most out of that opportunity. And then on the back end of that, you're going to be rewarded. And I was rewarded. So you can look back on my career. I worked for 3 different companies. I've had several jobs. I've only ever posted for one of them. And people have given me opportunities based off of just me trying to do the right thing. So I try to do the right thing at work. I try to do the right thing as a leader of a community development organization that is serving the communities, and try to do the right thing by our communities. And I've been able to reap the rewards of that.
That's awesome, man. I kind of thought there's a path, there's a journey, right?
Yeah.
But I hear in the midst of everything, you are preaching plan. That's just the DNA.
Yeah.
You know, and that purpose ended up lining up.
Yeah.
Right. So you doing these tours or whatever you were doing, you know, and you were in the right place seemingly at the right time.
Yeah.
You know, and God just ordered your steps.
Absolutely.
I'm really grateful, man, that we get a chance to sit here and just kind of chop it up a little bit. I wanted to, you know, get some information. I want our folks to be able to hear, you know, there's resources here at Zion.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's this education piece doesn't stop. You know, this is just one time that we're sitting here and you know, being able to share, but this doesn't stop.
Exactly.
You know? And I think, you know, we have people who want to start businesses, right? They may or may not know what to do. we can start helping people to get there. People might be in that LMI arena and they want to move out of that and move into the next. But where do you start? Tell you this, next week, tune in. We have a financial planner that's going to sit right there.
I think I said something about a financial planner.
Yeah, it's part of the process, right? It's part of the process. So I'm really thankful, Radel, that you would come in and share with us tonight and share with our people and give this information that I know is going to just bless somebody. And God is doing a new thing in this season. I think He is really giving us information. We're to be good stewards. We're to do something with the information that we get. So I'm blessed that you guys were able to tune in tonight, see, witness, hear, and just take this information and take it to the next step. And if you have questions, feel free, call the church, let us know, and then we'll get that information, get some answers back to you. God is good all the time. In Jesus' name, amen. Peace, shalom.
The sun